Josh, you had an early Christmas present the other day. What's your reaction to the new addition?
Uh, yeah, obviously we're excited. Anytime that you can add a quality player to your roster, obviously you're very excited to get that. And then he got here. I know it was a quick turnaround for him, but we've been fast at work getting him caught up with really terminology and things that we're going to ask him to do. And we're very excited to get him out there on the field.
When you picture him perhaps on one side and Jalen Phillips on the other, what are some of the things that go through your mind in terms of the potential for those two guys?
Yeah, I think both of them have shown that they can do multiple things. They both can set edges. They both can rush the passer. They both, can drop from time to time. I would say that they're productive. They're physical. Obviously, we have a multitude of players that we feel like we can use and put in those spots as well. And the more you have, the better we feel we'll be. And like we're really excited about the addition and getting him caught up to speed. And like everything, you're trying to get better from week to week, and we feel like he definitely can help us do that.
Um, Josh, I hope this question makes sense. That's most of my questions. Is Bradley Chubb a specific good fit for this defense, or is he so good you just take his talent?
That's a good question. He's a good fit for our defense, so I don't really look at the other question. I know he fits what we'll ask him to do. I think we'll be able to highlight, his skill set, and I think he'll help our defense. So I think it's a good marriage.
Can you take us through the decision to play Verone McKinley, free safety, and now Javon Holland playing a lot in the box? Is that matchup based, or you think that's something you want to continue doing?
Well, I would say to us each week's it's based on what's available to us, what the offense is doing to us, and then what we think is going to be the best going into that week. So I think the key point in all of it is to make progress players as we're going along, get other players a little bit more multiple as we're going along, and then each week you just choose what you feel is the best way for you to win that week. So, I wouldn't say anything's like set in stone, like this guy's going to be this week, this guy's going to be that this week. And I think, usually like if you line up the same way or you're always tweaking things as you go, you really are. And I think the key thing is to understand what we're asking guys to do and for them to get better at things that we're asking them to do that's new, if that makes sense.
Coach, back to the Bradley Chubb acquisition. One of the talking points you see is how important it is to get pressure with four-man rushes in today's NFL. Just curious your take on that and kind of how he adds to your ability to get pressure with just four rushers.
Yeah, so obviously if you're rushing with four and you're getting pressure with four, you have more guys in coverage. So again, I'm not real good with math, but I do know like the more guys you put in coverage, usually you have an opportunity to do things a little bit more multiple than you do the more guys that you send. And again, I think it's dependent on how you feel about your matchups week to week and what you feel like the offense is doing to you on how you use guys and where you put them. So I think that's kind of is it advantageous? Like again, you could get a sack on a three-man rush, or you could rush 8 and have really good coverage in the back end. So, it goes hand in hand, but I would say it opens up a lot more avenues to you from a coverage perspective when you can rush with 4.
Josh, what would you say is the one single biggest factor in the defense pitching a shutout the past 2 weeks?
In the second half.
Second half, sorry.
Yeah. I was just, the first half.
Details.
Yeah, the first half, we committed way too many penalties, which continued in the second half, which obviously we got to get cleaned up. And there are penalties that really have nothing to do with talent or effort or, so we definitely need to get that cleaned up. We had some opportunities for plays. They kind of went against us. I would say this week was a little bit different than the previous week at half. There was, I would say, substantial adjustments this week than there was the week before. But it's really a credit to our players and our coaching staff that, because halftime is 12 minutes. So really you talk about it as a staff for, I was actually talking to a couple guys walking up the tunnel, and you talk about it for a couple minutes, and then you go, all right, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're putting this in on this. We're going to put this in on this. Let's make sure that we got this on this. And our assistant coaches didn't miss a beat. Our players didn't miss a beat, and we were able to make some adjustments that helped us out. I think we're working very hard to start faster, especially on the road. So, again, there's always things that you're going, okay, we got to get this better, and what are we doing to get it better, and how are we going to get it better? And then the things that you're doing well, obviously you try to keep continuing doing those and build. I think the big thing is just the mentality of our coaching staff and our players allows us to handle whatever comes our way. Our guys are built to handle adversity. Now, obviously, we would not like to put ourselves in that situation, time and time again, but they're definitely built to handle that, and that's a credit to them, and it's a credit to our coaching staff.
Josh, you're one of few, remaining coaches from 2019 when the franchise were, for lack of better words, building for the future. I know you're focused on the now, but can you kind of speak on like a coach level, on maybe organizational level, the excitement of the team bringing in Bradley Chubb, months after bringing Tyreek Hill, and making moves that kind of signal that this team really believes it can win now and is ready to win now?
Yeah, I think as a coach, regardless of what your circumstance is, your intent and your expectation is always to win. I really believe that, like we said last week, like there's going to be one team that's happy at the end of the year, and there's going to be, the 31 others trying to figure out how to be that team. I think that's why you're in the business, is to win championships. And I think when you go out and you play each week, the expectation, and for our opponents, I'm sure the expectation is the same. Like, we're going to go out, we're going to have a good plan, we're going to win. That's our expectation. I think, obviously, when you acquire players that are good players, proven players that have done it, and the beauty of it is you actually get to see firsthand. Like, I knew Tyreek Hill was a good player when I was coaching in New England. The amount of respect that I have for him now, seeing how he practices, see how he approaches the game, see how he attacks things, it's on a whole new level. And there's usually a common thread between guys that are really special in this league. It's their effort, their attention to detail, their routine. And I think, you're always trying to acquire the best that you can be, in the NFL from a player standpoint. So, whether it was 19 or now, I don't think the expectation has changed one bit.
Josh, has the belief changed?
For me, no, not at all. Each week, we expect to win. We expect to, do good things. Like I said, you're in this business to win the last game of the season. It's not. I think that's what all competitors want to be and want to do. I don't think it's about contract. It's not about sponsorship. It's not about when you're in it in a competitive manner, you're trying to win the game that's in front of you, and you're trying to do that week after week to set yourself up to be in a position to have a chance in the tournament.
Josh, Tua said that he had to learn to be less hard on himself because McDaniel is so positive and encouraging. And so I'm wondering, in your first year of working with him and having been here previously, have you had to learn that as well, and maybe learn to adjust maybe some of your own coaching styles to match, his encouraging, sort of supportive style?
Well, I think, to be genuine, you have to be who you are. So I don't think from that standpoint it changes. What it does is it gives you an opportunity to learn from somebody else. And I think those are valuable lessons, from all the coaches, not just Mike included, which I've learned a lot from Mike since he's been here. But I've had conversations with Imbo. I've had conversations with Bevel, Frank. Obviously I knew Wes from before when he was a player, but there's a lot of guys that you have conversations with, and I think it's always a great opportunity to learn and to improve yourself, because I think, again, as individuals or human beings, you're always striving to be better than you were the day before. And when you're presented with an opportunity from people that give you a new perspective, it's really an opportunity for growth. So been very fortunate in that regard, and very, very happy that, those conversations exist.
Josh, if I'm not mistaken, this team has played 4 undrafted rookies, 3 on defense, Ben Stilley, Cater, and Veron, right? Can you take me through the process of those guys from when they come into camp, getting the coach's attention, gaining their own confidence, and then for 2 of them to start last week is just kind of incredible. But how do you gain confidence in them, and how do they, it seems like it's a much tougher road for them.
Yeah, I think it comes in and it really starts with consistency in practice. And I think it starts with, obviously the execution that you see on the field, and their opportunities arise on the practice field, before you can get them into game situations. Obviously, we had some preseason games that they got opportunities. And then you definitely see how they handle themselves off the field and all their preparation that goes into it. And then really, it's like all of us, it's a production business, and comes down to when you get opportunities, can you produce? And, they take coaching. They all pride themselves in trying not to make the same mistake twice, because like all of us, they're going to make mistakes. I make probably, I would hate to quantify how many mistakes I make a day, but it happens every day, and you just try to learn from them and get better, and they do. And they try not to repeat errors. And then they have the physical ability, the right mentality, and they've been able to be productive for us. So, they've earned everything that they've been given.
Are they I guess allowed to make fewer mistakes, for lack of a better term, than maybe a veteran player or a drafted player?
Well, I think when you go in it, you have a plan in place, and or anticipate some things are going to come up. That's just a natural thing. And then the big thing is, and like Mike said all year, adversity is really just a opportunity. And so what they do when they're faced with adversity or a bad play, really kind of tells you a lot, and on how they learn from that and how they move on.
Which part of Kohu's college film has sort of shown from a physical and skill strength perspective in the early portion of his career?
Yeah, I think we've seen it all. I really do. I think we've seen, that he was a physical player in college. He attacked the ball when he had opportunities. And he was able to track the ball, and his coverage skills, which obviously we're working on to improve all those things, but I think you see all of those transfer to our league.
Coach, the Bears obviously run the ball for a bunch of yards, a couple of really strong backs, and a quarterback that involves himself in the running game a lot. How do you handle both those backs, but also a team that can insert the quarterback in the run game, both designed and with the scramble yardage?
They make it very challenging. I mean, they have a really strong 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Herbert, 2 different type of runners, but they're both very productive. They both get opportunities. They are a team that is committed to the run. They have a quarterback that's very dynamic when he is running. He's very fast, very strong. He's physical. He's elusive in the open field. So there's a lot of assignment football, if you will, that has to be, detailed with every call that we have, with every play that we could possibly face. So it's a massive undertaking, but we're really excited for the challenge. And we, have nothing but the utmost respect for their running game. We know they're going to be committed to it. They got 2 really good backs, and they use the quarterback in it as well. So, and they'll also, they're using their receivers on, jet sweeps or, reverses, whatever you want to call them. It's a very dynamic running game that I would say that's very diverse.
How many minutes before you got over the Detroit Lions win?
That anger process started a little early for me. That was probably somewhere in the first or second quarter. But no, I mean, I would say it's the same thing. You just move on. Obviously there's some things that you look back on and reflect that you're like, okay, we could have done this better, or we need to get this better. Like the penalties, like that stuck out in your head right away, and then, I think there was things that, that some things we did improve and some things that we changed going along the way. So you obviously feel good about that and building on that. But it quickly turned to, we need to get a win this week, which I don't, you can go all the way back to 2006 when I started my career. Maybe I didn't know this at that time, or like the question about 19 to now. It's the same process. It really is. And I mean, you put that in, every week with the expectation of winning. I've never went into a game going, I don't know about this one. I mean, you always put a plan in that you're going, okay, we got to do this. We hit our targets. We execute, okay, and we're going to win. So I think that's kind of the expectation, and that's all the preparation that goes into it to get to that point.
The Bears were also active at the trade deadline, and I'm curious, how do you prepare for an offense that may feature, a new receiver in Chase Claypool? Like, what's the process there? Are you just watching him, in his previous team and extrapolating, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I would say you look at what the team does offensively, and then you look at the skill set of the player that they acquired, and you take an educated guess on how they might use them. Obviously, it was 2 weeks ago, that we played Chase Claypool, so we have a little bit of familiarity from, call it, a skill set standpoint. Obviously, the schemes are, I would say they're vastly different. So, it's a little bit of, okay, how will they use him in this? But I think our players are very aware of who the player is, how they might use him, and, how we needed to defend the scheme and the player.